Stream is started. Okay, where are my show notes? Good, show notes. This is the Techno Buffet podcast, episode number 610, recorded Thursday, December 18th, 2022. In 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Welcome to another exciting episode of the Techno Buffet podcast. Now with just as much Jerry as last week.
Just as much.
If not more.
No, we're not looking for more Jerry.
Okay. It's been another week. Things have happened. I found a interesting gap in the sort of basic security system that I put together for 2 out of 3 of the locations I'm running Home Assistant.
Really?
Let's see. Number 1, your camera doesn't work as effectively if somebody rips the power cord out of the wall.
That's true.
And the cabinet on which the power cord is sitting on, and the entire kitchen.
I don't get it.
Well, you know how sometimes you've heard the expression "you have to strike when the iron is hot."
Yes.
So some time ago, my family talked to somebody who might be able to replace some kitchen cabinets, and the guy just suddenly showed up and said, "I have a week. Do you want the cabinets replaced or not?" So he essentially demolished the entire kitchen in a day. And is in the process of replacing the cabinets.
All right.
Did not know that was going to happen. But, again, we'll see what happens next year. I'm sure he'll send a picture. But, that is a bit of a gap. If somebody unplugs all of the things that you use to detect what's going on, then you will not be detecting what's going on. I don't know how to get around that, though. Admittedly, I'm not trying to have, let's say, a serious burglar alarm, just sort of a minor one, but we'll see. So, in good news, Home Assistant 2022.12 came out.
Yay!
Have you installed it, Jerry?
No.
I did upgrade my version, but I have not had time to play with all of the shiny new features. I use the term shiny because one of them actually is called a shiny new feature.
Is it?
Yes.
The calendar?
Well, let's go through it. Just a brief summary. Matter. So there is a first iteration of the Matter integration, but to run the Matter integration, you need a web connection to a separate product, which I have not bothered to install. So I'm not running the full Home Assistant OS. I am running Home Assistant on a computer, which means I'd need to install that piece separately. Easy enough, but I have nothing that needs Matter, so it didn't seem to be a rush. But it is exciting that Home Assistant is one of the first things to actually get a beta matter support. Or is it alpha? It's something.
I think it's beta.
Well, I was confused because I was following along in the release notes, and it says it is best described as alpha or developer preview, and then later on it says it is currently available for. Oh no, that's the Android app that's available for beta testing. So it's alpha. The Android app is beta, but so very early. They expanded the tile card that they introduced in the last version.
Yep. With new features. It
Yep. Well, it's fancy.
is fancy.
So you can have command buttons for vacuum cleaners. I do not have a vacuum cleaner attached to my Home Assistant. Brightness sliders for lights. Controls for opening and closing and tilting covers. Covers being like a garage door or a curtain. So I may put together a nice little tile thing. We'll see. And there are also colors.
Which is nice to give some spice.
Yeah. So that's the shiny thing that they talked about. They said shiny new state colors.
Oh, okay.
So they are now predictable, recognizable, and they say looks better. And then we get to the feature that you mentioned, the local calendar.
I'm not sure what I'd use this for.
Calendaring.
Yes.
Well, sometimes you want things that you don't have to import from third-party systems. Because if you look, it does support recurring events. So you might want something like every Friday do this. So you can add an event and then run automations off of it.
Oh.
So I don't think this is an appointment calendar so much as this isn't a calendar for to use as a trigger for things. But I installed it, but I haven't played with using it for something. If you are a Shelly user, apparently the Bluetooth proxy now works with Shelly.
Meaning it will use Shelly, I believe Gen 3 or later. It will use those.
Second gen.
Oh. It will use those relays as Bluetooth extenders.
Yeah. And I have my Bluetooth extenders around. Did I mention that one of my Home Assistants with the Bluetooth proxy picked up an Oral-B toothbrush?
That's crazy.
Yeah, I was sort of wondering if you pick up your neighbor's toothbrush and connect to it over Bluetooth, what interesting things could you do with that if you were not me, who would not do anything? I'm not going to say inappropriate, but who wouldn't do anything to just annoy a random neighbor? Make them brush an extra 3 minutes?
I don't know.
There is a new entity type, text. So the difference between this and the pre-existing text helper is that the text entities are provided by integrations. So integrations can provide entities that ask for a textual input in the UI.
I still did not understand the difference.
Okay, text helper. Remember, all the helpers are things that are created in the Home Assistant interface that you can set. So this allows integrations to set a text input.
Okay.
So let's say you have a smart sign. I'm just thinking of an example here. So your smart sign is essentially an internet-connected sign that can connect to Home Assistant, and it produces a text entity where whatever you type into the text entity is what's displayed on your smart sign.
Oh, I didn't realize that. I didn't. Neat.
Yeah, as I said, I don't know precisely, since the only integrations they have is KNX. and also MQTT. I think people haven't had the chance to actually do much with it. But I think once you can add it to things, there'll be things that need a textual input. And
Yep.
you'll have one.
Cool.
Well, it's like button. Remember they added in button?
Yep. And that's extremely useful.
Yeah, but input, the input boolean, which is essentially a toggle, was something you could do as a helper. A button was generated where pressing the button within the interface triggered something within the device. So, again, I think they've realized that there are some gaps they need to fill. They've also apparently made some enhancements to what used to be the min-max helper, which is now the combine the state of several sensors helper. Not quite as simple a name, though.
Yeah.
So what it is if you have two numeric sensor entities and you want to create an entity that shows the sum of those two, you can now do that with a helper.
Huh. Interesting.
I could think of some interesting things to do with that.
I know of exactly what I would do with it, but I don't know if it's worth going in and changing it now.
Well, the one that I thought of doing, now this is sum for combining the state of sensors, but I think it can do other mathematical functions, even though it's not shown that way in the notice.
Right.
I had this thing that I had always wanted to do, which is to average the temperatures of all of the rooms in my apartment, and then use that to control the thermostat instead of having it based on the temperature at the actual thermostat. I'm not sure if that makes sense.
No.
Why not? Here it is. It's if you combine the state of several sensors, you can combine by showing the minimum, the maximum, the arithmetic mean, the median, the most recently updated of these sensors, the statistical range, or the sum.
Oh, wow. I wonder if it could combine. Can it combine Booleans too?
I don't know. I think it might only be numeric, but you can try.
Like,
Boolean is technically a numeric.
Imagine you have one that's like all of your exterior perimeter doors and windows, and it is simply, is there something open?
Yeah. It might be doable, again, because a Boolean is usually a 0 or a 1, so it might let you do it.
Hey, cool.
Never hurts to try. So let's see what else we have here. Those are sort of the major things. They've added in some new integrations. Apparently, AirQ, Aranet, Lavisi Smart Home, the Ruvi Tag BLE, and Sensorion BLE, as well as some other changes. Apparently, your NO2 and your VOC sensor entities now work with HomeKit, and the MQTT integration has reached the gold level on the integration quality scale.
Yay! Good job.
Did you know there was an integration quality scale?
Yeah.
No, I did not know this. It is apparently no score, silver, gold, or platinum. So I had never noticed that there was actually an integration quality scale. That's interesting. By the way, Shelly is now a platinum integration.
Ooh.
Yeah. So there are a lot of interesting things there. If you have a humidifier, the humidifier card now shows on-off controls. And the Amazon Echo integration now supports humidifiers, which is good because it's humidifier season here in New York. And I upgraded. I now have better humidifier support. essentially, I upgraded some of the older humidifiers since they discontinued the model that I was using, and the new ones do have Wi-Fi, which saves me from what I was doing, which was combining a standard humidifier with a temperature and humidity sensor.
Really?
The cost was not prohibitive. You can oddly enough get a connected humidifier for like $40. I know you don't understand why people need humidifiers.
I don't.
Because you live in a place where it is naturally humidified.
Yes.
That reminds me, I have to refill the humidifier. But no, in places where it is cold, people turn on the heat.
You turn on the heat here too.
Yes, but the heat tends to dry out the air.
I mean, it got down to 65, and I'm turning the heat on.
65 isn't cold.
Okay, you say so.
Okay, I'll be fair. In my opinion, 65 is not cold. By the way, it's about 47 outside, give or take. So it's a warm day. It's dropping down to 34 tonight, which, well, we're in December. That's actually warm for this time of year. It usually goes down and stays in the 30s and 40s. So it being the fact that it was above that for parts of the day indicates that it's a little warmer. But the problem is if the air gets too dry, I find that my throat gets dry. So I need a little more moisture in the air to replace what's boiled off by the heat.
Okay. You say so, mine.
Yeah. Especially when I'm sleeping. There's nothing worse than waking up with dry mouth.
I'm sure there's something.
There's nothing worse in a dry environment than doing that. But yes, there are worse things in this world than that. Anyway, so I also decided to integrate my... There's a custom Myth TV integration for Home Assistant that I haven't... I've had installed, but I haven't been keying automations off of. So I decided to set up some automations based on it and discovered for whatever reason it's not working. So something that got upgraded at some point broke it. Unfortunately, it's a custom integration and not a one that's built in, so there's not really anybody maintaining it right now. Apparently, I'm not the only one who's been having problems because I saw that there were other people who had issues. So hopefully, they'll figure that out. Because I was all prepared to, again, have better integration. So
you wanted better integration. You deserved better integration.
Well, again, the developer, I was reading sort of the issues. Apparently, he's had some personal life stuff.
It happens.
Yeah. So I could probably, rig something up myself or try to remember enough Python to modify the code so it works again. But I figured, I will
probably beat you to it.
No, I figured I will go do something else, and if nobody beats me to it in a reasonable amount of time, I'll see if I want to do that. There are also, again, some breaking changes, as is there always. So you can always look at that. And Google Chat has been removed because it relied on the Google Hangouts APIs.
Which makes sense.
Yeah. They could have just upgraded it to not rely on those APIs, but again, I understand. So that was that. But wait, there's more. Remember the people over at Eufy we were talking about last week?
Yes.
Apparently their solution, again, was to add a disclosure, but apparently they are still denying that they should patch more of the concerning security holes. So they did do a few things, but not as much as people thought they should. So people are arguing that they are downplaying the situation. So a lot of organizations have said that they can no longer recommend Eufy, which they previously recommended.
That's funny.
Yeah, I don't think Eufy as a company is stupid. I think they know that this isn't good for their reputation, and you think that they would not downplay the situation. recognizing so many people are upset, and just come up with a solution, promise people, because they are selling products that have a certain level of trust associated with them, that they are going to address that. But we'll see. As I said, you could always do what I do.
Which is not.
No hardware cutoff switch.
Ah.
Well, no, they say you should never have internal cameras in the interior of your house, because there's always the legitimate concern that a camera connected to the internet might be watching you.
Sure.
So my cameras are keyed to only power on when I'm not here. And otherwise they are powered off. So that means if somebody does break in, it would record it. And as long as I'm in the house, it won't. So if somebody in a random part of the internet wants to watch my camera to watch for that burglar who I'm hoping never comes, then so much more the power to them. I know there are other concerns about privacy that don't rely on, let's say, the assumption that something bad is going to happen, or the assumption that nothing bad is happening, so why do you care? But again, at the moment, I will wait to see. I already gave up Wise because I didn't like how they were doing things. I'm not going to go replace even cameras again. Well, no, Wise, the issue wasn't just the security thing. It was the fact that I felt like I was living in a beta product all the time.
And you were.
But again, with Eufy, while I'm upset about this, I never felt like I was in a beta continuously. Anyway, also they weren't constantly trying to sell me Cam Plus. And they were, even though Eufy makes a lot of different products, I felt that they devoted enough consistent attention to their Eufy security line. And they weren't constantly trying to sell me, the Wise gun safe, or what was it? They just did, the Wise router, or like 15 different product lines, causing them to ignore the original product line. Anyway, so a lot of things bothered me about Wise. Still like them, as an innovative company. Just I didn't want to deal with them anymore.
I get it.
Yes. So I had one Wise thermostat that I tried, which I installed at my parents' place in Florida. I'm going to be pulling it out the next time I'm there, which makes the last Wise product, especially since it crashed. They went to Florida after Thanksgiving, so a few days ago, because they stayed around for a few days afterwards to have some appointments. They came into their apartment in the middle of the night, and the air conditioning didn't work because the Wise thermostat shorted out.
Well, I guess I'm on the other side of that Eufy thing, because I just bought a Eufy product for Christmas, and I'm not returning it.
I'm not returning any of mine either. I said I got rid of Wise. Even though Eufy has some troubles, I think that I can deal with them. I don't use any of their facial AI right now. I suppose I could. The fact that there are some questions about whether or not they're uploading the facial stuff to the cloud makes it so that I don't really feel like I need to rush that. Also, I think you might need their home base for that, which I don't own. I just own some of their little like $30 cameras.
Uh-huh.
So I'm fine for now. They have RTSP. I can stream them to a third-party thing and minimize the usage otherwise. And as I said, because they're strategically placed and they're strategically controlled by something that is not controlled by Eufy, I feel like I don't have the risk some other people might. Also, unlike the Wise, there's a nice red light on it that shows when it's recording, which means if by some chance they did magically turn on, I would know it. Anyway, moving along. Google's ADT3 device, which is the only Android TV development device out there, has been discontinued.
Oh, no.
I happen to like Android TV. it's again, it's been beating Roku for me lately. Although I am having a problem with CEC.
Are your monitors out of spec?
No, I have an AV receiver, and I have the Google Chromecast plugged into the AV receiver, and that plugged into the TV. So the Chromecast is a little confused about what it's trying to turn on. I have to fiddle with it a bit. That was why I was trying to get the Myth TV integration. I figured that I could trigger the switch of the AV receiver to Myth TV using Home Assistant when I wanted to use the Myth TV receiver.
And it didn't work.
Well, because the integration isn't working, but it would have worked. I have some other things.
If it worked, it would have worked.
No, if the integration was working like it has in the past, then my idea to use it to solve the problem of one device being confused about which device it was supposed to control would have worked. Since it was not working, I can't test whether or not I would have been satisfied. Either way, I have a few more tricks, and I still have thought about doing a factory reset on the Roku TV, which allows you to turn it into a quote-unquote dumb TV.
Ooh, a dumb TV.
Yes.
Okay.
Anyway, let's see here. There was a Pixel feature drop for the month of December.
Really?
Yeah, including new unified security and privacy settings. And if you have a Pixel 7, it now enhances voice and reduces background noise.
Nice.
If you're using the Pixel Recorder, which is again a Pixel exclusive, with essentially English conversations with a 6 or newer, it will identify and label each speaker when it does the transcription.
That's cool.
Yeah, I thought so. There's some more sleep tracking if you have a Fitbit. There are new wallpapers. So apparently there are 3 curated cultural wallpapers to celebrate the International Day of People with Disabilities. I'm not much of a curated wallpaper type person, but they seem like nice wallpapers as things go. I'm more of like a patterned background type person.
Looks pretty.
Yeah. And apparently they're expanding the whole concept of the digital car keys using your phone.
Ooh.
And they're expanding. I saw that they're expanding like the digital driver's license program, but that wasn't in this drop. But exciting.
It is. I'm excited.
Well, I don't know. I don't always want to carry around a thick wallet full of things. On the other hand, it's still the fewer things you have, the more likely it is that losing one item will mean you have nothing.
Yes, but if that one thing that you lose is your wallet, then you've lost a lot of things. But, as one security researcher said, the problem of carrying around tiny pieces of paper with us is a solved problem.
I suppose. The thing I'm thinking of is this. I remember several times where I was somewhere and my phone just suddenly died. You remember I had that battery swelling problem with 2 different phones?
Yep.
So what if your phone suddenly starts boot looping and you have to drive home because you didn't bring your driver's license because you have a digital one? I don't know if the police would understand that scenario.
At worst, you're looking at like a $5 fine, or at least down here.
You're in Florida.
Yeah, I mean, you're supposed to have your driver's license with you, but the crime is driving without.
No, what I'm saying is, I think the fines might be higher in New York.
That's because you live in a communist state.
Really?
That's what I've heard.
I think the people who say that New York is a communist state are just of opinions that are not correct. Now, that doesn't mean New York doesn't have communists. It just means suggesting it is a communist state would be somewhat overblown. But I live in Queens. I'll give you an example. The red light cameras in Queens, if you get a red light ticket from an automated camera, are about $50. But if you cross the border into the adjoining county, Nassau, it's about $150. So not only is there the actual ticket for the red light, there is a a driver safety fee and a payment processing fee that amounts to about $100.
That's crazy.
Yes. The lesson is do not speed or adjust your lighting in Nassau. I got a ticket in Nassau County when they claimed that I did not stop for a sufficient amount of time before making a right turn on red. I thought I did, but try arguing with a camera. Anyway.
Interestingly,
yeah.
Or I find it interesting. The stoplight cameras down here in Florida are not allowed to give you a right on red ticket.
The ones in New York clearly are, at least in Nassau.
Okay.
Well,
I just thought it was interesting. They're just not.
The thing is, I thought that I stopped for a sufficient amount of time. They did not. Again, it's back to the problem with traffic cameras would be a few things. First of all, red light cams, if the yellow lights are not a consistent amount of time. So sometimes you end up in a red light situation because you misjudged how long a yellow light was. And if you stop suddenly when you saw a yellow light, you might get slammed into by the person behind you. So what do you do in those circumstances? Now, I don't know if they have it in Florida. I've seen it in a few places where when a yellow light is about to turn red, then both the yellow and the red bulb are on. So it goes from green to green yellow to yellow to yellow red to red.
I've seen that not in the U.S. I've seen it in other countries.
So why can't they do that? So that you have some idea. Oh yes, it's about to turn yellow. Be prepared.
Well, actually, I don't think I've ever seen that so much as I've seen it when it's like it's on red. It'll flash to yellow. It'll like turn on the yellow light for a second to tell you that it's about to turn green.
But what I'm saying is, it would be different if there was a standard for how long yellow was supposed to be. But I think the way that they catch people inappropriately is that you sort of in your mind know how long yellow is supposed to be, and then you go somewhere else and it's a completely different set of time. So you misjudge things.
I think the amount of time is not actually an amount of time as much as it's an amount of distance.
Yeah, but you understand my point.
Yeah.
There should be some visual indication of what's going on or some consistency to it. Otherwise, you're essentially trying to trap people who make, I'm not saying poor judgments, but then what's going to happen is when you see a yellow, you're going to stop suddenly and you're going to cause accidents. Because I don't know if there's enough stopping distance. I don't know if the yellow is going to be quick and I'm going to get ticketed. And I know plenty of people who have been rear-ended at stop signs, including me. Not at a light, but I have been rear-ended at a stop sign. Anyway, my annoyance about that, which is a bit off of what we were talking about, continues. If you are a user of Google Messages, it has end-to-end encryption now for group chats. Encryption.
Yay. Encryption good.
Yep. LastPass had another security incident.
Man, this disturbs me.
Yeah, they've been having a few lately.
Is it that they're just reporting them now, or are they just a bigger target? I mean,
I don't know. I'm of the opinion that the last 2 years, anytime there's sort of a economic downturn, more people who are on the edge turn to criminal activity. It might be that.
Really?
I'm exaggerating. But I think sometimes you hear more about this stuff. But apparently they had a cyber attack, they had source code stolen, and now they accessed customer information. They claim that there is no chance that they could actually get at stored passwords because LastPass itself does not know what your passwords because they're encrypted with a password that you have, but they don't. That may or may not be true. Most people who've studied their technology have said that that probably is true. But that doesn't mean they couldn't find something that even LastPass didn't think of.
Or that it won't be broken in the future.
Making you think of leaving?
No, I don't. No, not really.
Well, I hear good things about Bitwarden and the whole Bitwarden family.
Maybe. We'll see.
I don't know if I want to start self-hosting, which is one option for Bitwarden. Moving along, if you have a Pixel, OTA updates could be much faster. They're looking to make them faster to install and make the install times drop by 50%. I installed the December drop, and that took an incredibly long period of time on Monday. I was sitting around doing other stuff and just watching that dial go across for longer than I thought it needed to be. Although it was a big update, it was 500 megabytes, which is pretty big for a monthly update.
It is.
Yeah. So apparently to improve it, they included batch writing, operations in a cluster, apparently snapshots to be updated to save space on the device, and a few other things. So we'll see. Moving along, a grandmother sued a cop who wrongly targeted her home using the Find My app. So apparently in January, police officers in Colorado confined a 77-year-old grandmother for hours in a squad car without water or other things because apparently they used the Find My iPhone app to assume that a car with 6 guns and an iPhone was parked in her garage with no evidence other than the fact that her home was located within the large blue circle drawn by the Find My iPhone app.
That's still kind of funny. I mean, not funny, but
Depressing.
yeah.
And apparently they used that as basis for a search warrant. One would hope that a search warrant had I will applaud them for actually getting a search warrant, but one would hope that a judge would be a little more skeptical of, I just used the Find My iPhone app. But there's no requirement that judges necessarily be tech savvy.
It's true.
Also, confining somebody in a car for hours without attention when, again, there was no evidence of anything going on other than a Find My iPhone app seems to be excessive in itself.
I would agree.
So again, bit disappointing. So hopefully the people involved will answer for their behavior. Because not only did they lock her in a car for several hours, they apparently broke her garage door, climbed on top of her dining room chairs, broke holes in her ceiling, snapped the head off of figurines, etc. And that they would not reimburse her for any of these damages because, again, technically if you have a search warrant, you don't necessarily have to. But if you obtain the search warrant on flimsy evidence that wasn't really evidence, you would think that they'd want to do something to avoid bad publicity.
Well, let's be clear. The people who are responsible are not going to pay for this. The taxpayers are going to pay for it.
And, there's a counterbalance to that, isn't it? If the taxpayers are required to pay for the stupidity of employees of the state, then they would be the ones who would want to hold state employees more accountable. But again, it doesn't. That may be an overly optimistic view.
I don't know if it's optimistic or just there are other things that people vote on besides, accountability.
I know. I'm saying that's why I said it might be. But I'd like to live in a world where when people are not competent, something happens to them. I don't live in that world because I watch the world outside my home and realize that incompetent people succeed in this world all the time without consequences for their lack of competency. I'm exaggerating a bit, but
not a lot.
Yeah, it's not entirely untrue that keeps happening, and it's frustrating. Anyway, let's talk about something completely different. Epson has pulled the plug on laser printers in the name of the environment.
What?
So they're claiming that laser technology's limited ability to make steps towards sustainability due to its requirement for heat during the print process and increased energy use essentially indicate that it is not sustainable. Now, I have a counter thought on this. If I buy an inkjet printer and I don't use it very often, the ink in the inkjet printer will dry out and I'll have to buy more ink.
Sounds like a win for for Epson to me.
Yeah, but I'm saying if I have a inkjet printer sitting in the corner here, and I have a toner drum prints like 600 pages, and I think I've had the printer for like 7 years, and I've only had to replace the thing once. So I don't know if that's necessarily fair that you're saying, oh, it uses more electricity. But instead, the inkjet produces more waste for people who are infrequent printers.
Yep.
So there are ways to make laser printers more effective, or maybe you want to find a new technology, but I don't think having tanks full of ink that does not last a long time is necessarily a good thing. Also, half of those printers are pretty cheap and break down anyway, so you end up having to buy a new printer. So I don't know. I guess I'm not an Epson customer.
Well, does it make you feel any better that I'm not either?
What's your printer of choice?
I tend to have HP color lasers for the last a while.
I haven't had the need for a color laser.
They're so awesome.
Yeah, but I'm saying I print like documents on an. So I have one printer in the corner, which is a black and white Brother laser, and I've done very well with Brother. They seem to last a good amount of time.
Yep.
And as I said, I mostly am printing when I need to print a document. It also acts as a copier, and I think the last thing that I copied was when I made a copy of something, shrank it to 70%, laminated it, and put it in my wallet, which would have been my car registration. But anyway, also I think I laminated my insurance card. So I don't really need anything fancier. Color would be nice, but it would just be another toy. So Android 13 for TV is now available. So this is the Android, the TV OS version of Android, which is now available.
Cool.
Yep. And at the moment, nothing's running it.
Okay.
Well, the release is now available for the ADT3, which we talked about earlier, has been discontinued, and the Android TV emulator. So it is not on any actual device yet. If you are a Google TV user, the Google TV app got a redesigned TV remote, and it can now cast from multiple services. For somebody who's been spending more time with Google TV, this is good.
I'm glad it works for you.
We all have our things. And apparently, if you are a celebrator of the season, apparently Android has added in some holiday features for you.
Oh, that's cute.
I suppose. As I said, I'm not one of those people for like fancy adjustments.
Yep.
I'm a simple person with simple needs. I also had the other Android challenge, which I think I mentioned with the hearing aids, that my father needed to change phones. So his new phone, which was a Samsung S10e, arrived, and I had to Samsung it for him.
Samsung it.
Samsung has the very heavy One UI overlay. It's not quite as bad as it used to be, but I essentially just covered it up. You know, uninstall Samsung Health, and essentially uninstall everything that has Samsung in the name, and switch it for what he was used to, which would be the stock Google apps. So he didn't have to learn anything new. I don't know how happy he is, though. I haven't asked him. But it seems to be working because he can now adjust the volume on his hearing aid.
Sweet.
Yeah. Usually down because he says I'm talking too loud.
That was funny.
Not really. I tried whispering, and then he says that I'm being rude, and he doesn't find it funny. No, he did. He tells me I'm too loud, so I whisper, and then he says, "Stop whispering." Anyway, jokes aside about things with hearing aids, have you been up to anything that you'd like to talk about this week before we adjourn?
No, I've been working excessively.
Oh. I'm once again taking tomorrow off.
Good on you.
Well, remember, it's the side effect of not taking time off the rest of the year. My vacation year ends on December 31st. So if I do not use the days I didn't use earlier in the year by December 31st, I lose them. And while I do let my company take advantage of me, as many people's employers do, I'm not letting them get free days off of me. I'm not that nice. It's one thing to say I'm going to stay, the occasional extra hour when there's an emergency, but I'm not giving up my vacation days. So I'll be taking a bunch of them this month.
Good.
To burn them off. And I figured, why not, take some Fridays and make some nice little 3-day weekends. So I'm taking this Friday, last Friday, and next Friday.
Excellent.
Also, next week I will be relocating to another location. Since I have more than just a Friday to use up, I'm going to go enjoy the warmth that is Florida. Although when I planned that, I didn't know it would be so warm here. It's only 45 degrees. Not really pool weather, but, not freezing. But if I go to Florida, it would be pool weather.
I don't know about pool weather, but it's nice.
What temperature do you consider to be acceptable for pool enjoyment?
The water should be about 82 degrees.
What about the air around it?
Doesn't really matter.
Well, it does if it's windy.
Well, not if you're in the water.
Yeah, they don't heat the water enough where I'm going. And so the air is important. But I will, of course, recommend the solution that a friend of mine recommended. I don't get a commission, but it seems to have worked really well since he suggested it to me. It is the ReallyBigTowelCo.com. So that's Really Big Towel Co.
That's funny.
They sell really big towels. So if you are a person who is going to be swimming in windy and conditions where you want to get out of the water and become dry and warm instantly, I recommend a big towel. Unfortunately, they seem to have a supply problem because I checked. They only have 2 colors in stock right now out of their whole color line. But I'm sure if you wait, the other ones will be back in stock. It is, of course, the buying season.
Eventually.
I don't know, usually in a few weeks. Also, it is a small business. Anyway, so until next week when I will be somewhere else working on different projects, like replacing a wise thermostat.
Ooh.
Why ooh?
I don't know. Why not?
I'm not sure I'm going to be happy with the thermostat I'm replacing it with. I have a bit of a problem. My parents' place, because of where the placement of the thermostat is, the width of the thermostat has to be less than 4 inches wide. And a lot of the ones that I was looking at were more than 4 inches wide. So this is the first time I've had to pick a thermostat based on its width.
Interesting.
Isn't it an interesting problem to have?
Yep.
So we'll see. So until the next time that we meet.
Until the next time. Bye, folks. Have a good night.
Goodbye.
Recording stopped.
Same time next week.
Unless I have a problem getting to your state.